Good. All right. We are actually on air. Wow. That's how they start for us today. Richie. Wow. All right. Thank you very much for that. Wow. All right. Welcome to our economic review. Let me take time to introduce. I was a shocker. All right, let me take time to introduce the guests who will be with us this morning. Team Kipchumba. All right, we have Beatrice Mwangi and we do have Robert Ochieng as well. Thank you very much for taking your time to join us here at Metropole Television. All right, this is your official economic review, therefore. Now, the World Bank has injected 1.25 billion shillings to go into the Kenya electricity modernization project slated to be completed by 30th June this year. Now, the money geared towards acquiring smart meters is part of a new infrastructure looking to provide a two-way communication between the company and the customer. It will see consumers get proper access to real-time information, which will see them get their bills through an online customer portal. Now, the smart meters will also be able to send real-time communication to the Kenya Power offices in case of a blackout, which will improve resolution and enhance efficiency through the prompt alerts. Now, Kenya Power's Managing Director and CEO Bernard Ngugi, during the launch, maintained the combined benefits of error-free data prompt network problem identification and audit of energy consumption will go a long way in enhancing service delivery to customers in the SME sector. Just before we cross over to exactly how that looks, let's cross over to what will be just a pointer to exactly how Kenya Power has been performing. And if you look at the KPLC net profit trend, you will see it has been dwindling all the way to the last results that we do have for Kenya Power, and that is all the way from 2015 up to where we are to date, which highlights what has been the worst performance for that agency in 16 years if you go by to how they closed 2020. All right, Tim, let me bring you in on this morning as we look to find just an outlook of what Kenya Power has been. Somebody would ask you, is this what Kenya Power needs to gain customer confidence as their fortunes get majorly reduced due to their inefficiencies?
I'm not very sure that this specific funding would necessarily resolve all the problems that KPLC has.
Yes.
I mean, the problems are way beyond the experience. I do think that the funding will be critical,
yes,
if for nothing, at least to improve customer experience. But I think that the problems are larger, really. I mean, the problems will be, responses to customer issues. Today, it might take a customer more than 4 months to just get connection, even after they've paid for the connection.
Yes.
But I do think that funding may help facilitate and improve, at least on a trial basis, customer experience.
Tim, just before I let you go on now and bring in Robert this morning, the problems at Kenya Power look to be like ones that can be solved should they want to actually solve them, because it's not like they don't have power. They actually do have more than they need to put into the market. Somebody would have asked you, if you were put at the helm of KPLC today, where would you start to fix their issues from?
The first one I would do is cost rationalization. I mean, KPLC buys power at half what they sell to the market.
Yes.
And so if you buy power, say, at 7 shillings per unit, and you need to sell it to customers at 15 all the way to 22, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't make profit. So I think the first one would be cost cutting. The second one would be improving experiences. I mean, phones have to be picked, connections have to be done. And then I also believe in some way, some of the problems, to be fair to them, may not necessarily be because of them. It might be, for instance, non-payments. And so they then need to be a little bit more diligent in the way they roll out networks across the country. Fixing the network, maybe employee morale, so that people are more responsive to customers. In the end, I really think that they are really manageable. I mean, their problems are manageable. KPLC problems are more manageable.
Yes.
If we had problems with generation, it would have been a little bit more difficult. But if you're just having problems with transmission and servicing customers, I mean, they can be fixed.
Pretty much. All right, let me bring in Robert Ochieng this morning. Robert, that funding will go into what has been one of the problematic areas of KPLC, efficiency and knowing when to act, acting promptly. Sort of this one-on-one communication between the customer and KPLC. Is that an area they needed to have approached first?
Yes, for sure. In any service industry, what you want is engagement and customers feeling that they're valued.
Yes.
Because system would go down and sometimes they'll not work. But as long as there's communication and you are engaged, you tend to relax as a business. Because we have customers who are running industries that they have manufacturing plants. And if there's no electricity, then it really causes a lot of problems if you have to use alternative sources of energy, which are very expensive.
Yes.
So personally, I've been in that experience where we were running a data center. And if the power goes off, you are looking at a lot of increase in cost. So I think it's necessary that they work with the customers as partners. And it should not be as obvious as knowing that if the electricity or the power goes off, then you are basically on your own, no communication, no anything. Yeah, so that will really help, because a satisfied customer
Yes.
is likely to stick with you and even think of other ways of including you in their strategic plan. If that is not the case, then they'll start looking for alternative means of power.
Pretty much. Now, Ben, the question around how KPLC has been even relating to their bigger chunks of the business and even industrialists in the country is that cost of energy. The cost of energy is an area that they have been asked to address from time to time. Somebody's going to ask you, Ben, I mean, if there's anything with the headlines that we've seen last year on how some of the bigger industrialists in the country want to move away from KPLC, shouldn't that be the area of investment for KPLC first, even before they start saying, well, let's think of efficiency? Efficiency maybe should have come second.
Well, it will get worse. The projection for cost is expected to rise by 60% in the next 2 years.
Yes.
And so, yes, I agree. The bigger question is, how can KPLC pick power at 7 shillings per unit?
Yes.
And end up charging 21 and now likely to charge 28 in another 2 years? And so, yes, I think that's a real elephant in the room. I mean, and I actually really think it might even end up affecting, not it might, it's already affecting our competitiveness as a country.
Yes.
If we are generating power at 3 times the cost of our neighbors, there is no way we can push industry. There is no way we can be competitive, which means there is no way we can increase trade. We can't have exports. We can't have jobs, because it then means Rwanda would be more competitive. Ethiopia is way, way more competitive. So if you combine that with all the regulatory, political challenges we have, yes, I do think, but I think it's too much to ask KPLC to attend to that, because that's the classical asking the dog to carry the sausages.
Yes.
I think KPLC can only respond if there is competition.
Yes. All right, Robert, let me bring you in on that as well. I mean, it's talking about competition there, but we do know that even what has been originally the older suppliers of KPLC are now planning to actually start selling directly to the consumers in the country. Do you think that that will be a turnaround for KPLC to start addressing some of the issues this year? Because if anyway, if Kenyan is going to start selling the electricity directly to their customers, then KPLC will in some sort of way wake up. And I want you to also respond to that question. Should any investment that KPLC is making right now sort of be geared towards addressing the cost first other than efficiency?
Yes, so that's a very good question. What comes into mind when we want to grow manufacturing sector as a country is that the cost of energy has to be very low.
Yes.
And it is the manufacturing sector that tends to create a lot of jobs in an economy, because you have
Yes.
to look at employment to sustain the young people who are very energetic and have got a lot of value to bring to the country. So looking at that, then the cost is a very big element. And I think for KPLC, from my point of view, if you look at it from a data point of view, is that their business model is wrong in terms of where they are spending their cost versus where they are getting most of their revenues.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't just try to channel power as if it is a mass market product, yet most of your revenue comes from businesses. So I think they have to do that. There's a bit of trying to concentrate where the industries are, because if you look at their books, over 50% of the revenues come from businesses,
Yes.
not individuals. So if you
Yes.
just take it to where there are many people, well, most of them will not even afford to pay the bills, then you have a problem in terms of the business model that you are anchoring on. And of course, there's a bit of political element there. So they need to rationalize that, and that will solve their problem, because you have to serve the customers who are bringing you the revenues. Then for the other ones, there's a bit of affordability. So let me just explain what I mean by that.
Yes.
In business, when you talk about demand, there are four key elements. So first, demand is the need or want, then the willingness to buy, then there is ability to buy or afford, then finally the decision to buy.
Yes.
So everyone wants a big house, everyone wants a good life, but can you afford that? So the people who are taking part, can they afford that? And even if you look at the way of collecting bills, and you might find that the cost that used to move around the villages to collect the bills is even more than the bill that the customers are paying. So
Yes.
it's just the model is wrong, if you ask me.
Pretty
And we
much.
need to fix that and focus on areas that can create a lot of growth for the country and production. We want many youths doing jobs, manufacturing sector. So we are going to have no industrial areas. So it's something we have.
All right, let's move on to the next issue that we have this morning. Now, for Kenya, will get a 1.29 billion shillings in US government fund, which will be used to improve compliance with international labor standards in key export sectors ahead of a new trade deal with Washington. Now, the U.S. Department's Bureau of International Labor Affairs confirmed that Kenya is among 3 African countries that were picked to benefit from the grant, alongside the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, and other unnamed nations. Now, the department indicates in an update that the grant was made available through the department's Bureau of International Labor Affairs, ILAB. Now, the grant totaling $11.7 million or 1.29 billion will support efforts to improve compliance with relevant international labor standards and acceptable conditions of work, with an emphasis on promoting occupational safety and health in one or more export-oriented economic sectors, such as the mining and quarrying sector. It will come as a good news for the country as Kenya stepped up talks for a new trade deal with Washington before the expiry of Africa Growth Opportunity Act, AGOA, which allows sub-Saharan African countries to export thousands of products to US without tariffs or quotas until 2025. All right, just before we go there, let's look at exactly what our relation with the US has been over time. And it's not really something to talk about. We do know exactly how it has been, because if we look at that trade balance data that we're showing you right now, you could say that, wow, it's a known fact that they have been taking more than we have been taking from them. So this actually comes in as good news in terms of anything that we're talking about when it comes to how Kenya can benefit from the US in this trade deal. All right, Tim, let me bring you in on that as well. How far back is Kenya when it comes to international labor standards, and which areas are especially lacking in your view?
Actually, I am an entrepreneur, and we see significant work being done around HSSE, health, safety, environment, not just as an employer alone, but even in terms of the legal framework that we are. I mean, we are one of the most advanced countries in terms of worker rights, in terms of conducive work environment, in terms of workwomen based insurance, benefits, and so I really think that. I mean, certainly that support is welcome. We've seen, in the past, some companies, their contracts cancelled because of, a case in mind is an exporter in UK that lost, I mean, a Kenyan exporter to UK that lost their contract because of just, element of non-conducive work environment. But I think as a country, relative to our peers in Africa, we are reasonably advanced in the way we treat workers. And so, yeah, support is always welcome. It's just that in many cases, sometimes labor laws can go against competitiveness for industry. If you're not careful, I'm saying this a bit more carefully, because of course, if we advance a fair environment for workers, that's a good thing. It's just that in some cases, depending on how the law is enforced, it can actually be extremely punitive for employers and make it a lot more harder for employers to attract talent.
Just so that we look, Richie, that's wrong data. Can we have our trade balance between Kenya and the US? That's exactly what it is we're talking about this morning. So if you look at it, Robert, let me bring you in on this as we show you that data that we have for you this morning. Robert, I mean, US is giving us this money so that we can actually comply with the labor standards. Where is the catch? Because if you look at that, I mean, they have been benefiting more than we have been benefiting for some time now. And here's somebody telling you, I'm going to give you that money so that you can actually conform to the labor standards so that you and I can get to trade. What are we looking at? Because if you look at our trade balance between Kenya and the US, it's for them. It's not for us, Robert. What are we getting at?
So I think basically what they're doing is technical support to Kenya. As you know, if you look at international standards, we've not been we've not been doing well in terms of the shifts in the economy.
Yes.
If you look at things like manufacturing, I think we've been a little bit static in the way we look at things. And that's why we are losing a lot of young people in terms of talent, and they're going to other countries, or some of them, they're here physically, but they're working remotely. So it's like there's a bit of what we call tokenized economy, whereby I might not work within the formal labor laws or employment, but I can just come create value for 1 hour. If that is what team needs in his company, then I'm paid for that. And we saw that during the US election, whereby the state of California voted so that people in the like ride-hailing business, Uber contractors, they can be classified as contractors and not full-time employees.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of need to look at it that way. We are basically looking at ways of aggregating demand.
Yes.
I might not have a full-time opportunity for someone, but I need something to be picked somewhere and I can pay them for that.
Yes.
And there's a lot of opportunity in that space. So I think it's important to give Kenya support so that we can work in line with the way the economy is. Because if you look at Nairobi as well, the people in informal sector, they'll really be hurting because they're the ones who are being disrupted. If you talk about industrial areas, the issues that we are talking about electricity, if the factory closes down, what happens? So there might be just an opportunity for 1 week. So you might get to work for 1 week and not full time. So I think there's a lot of support that Kenya needs, if you ask me, because we have very young population. The median age is 20 years old. So they need to have something to be doing, and we might not have full-time jobs for everyone.
Yes.
So there's a need for flexibility.
Pretty much. Gentlemen, I beg we take a short break here on Business AM, and remember what is waiting for us at the tail end of that break as well is the housing. We're talking about the affordable housing agenda by the Jubilee government, but we're not done with this, because then once we come back from this break, the question is going to be, how important is this Kenya-Washington trade deal for the economy? Once you come back, if our trade balance is to go by anything from that data that we're showing you this morning, you're still watching Metropole TV, but more certainly Business AM.